This is TWiT.
VR is at a bit of a crossroads. Is it a fad or is it the future? What will we use it for? One veteran from the video game industry thinks she knows one of the answers. Nanea Reeves is the CEO of TRIPP, a mood-altering VR platform. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
So
how are you guys? Thanks for having me. It's actually Nanea.
Nanea. Sorry. Yeah. I know, and you have it pronounced on your Twitter feed and everything, Nanea.
Phonetically.
So TRIPP comes out next year, 2018. It's been described as a combination of audio and visual elements, gameplay mechanics, and meditation. Tell us what it is exactly.
That's a good question. We're finding as we've begun development that the product itself is kind of telling us what it wants to be as well. But what we're focused on at TRIPP is creating transformative experiences that are digitally delivered. And our first experience is specifically a VR native product that is focused on changing the way that a person feels. So when you trip, you'll be able to select different feelings that might help you chill out after a long day at work or calm down even before an on-camera interview like this. And conversely, pump you up before a workout or some other activity that you might want to be primed and amped for. We're targeting those opposite ends of the spectrum to build out the platform, and then ultimately we'll start to do variations on that theme and create different TRIPP experiences that we hope will help people live more effectively and potentially even feel more happy, feel happier. We are doing this, as you mentioned, Megan, by taking visual and audio elements that have been known to produce certain effects when a person is exposed to them. And then the meditative experience, we use that word for lack of a better term because we're really trying to approach how to trigger a mindful state through an experiential interface. Obviously, we're not going to have you come into our app and tell you to listen to an audio file and close your eyes, So how do we trigger calm through exposure to certain sound frequencies and visual experiences that people will respond to? But our secret sauce is, because we are from the game industry, is that we are using gameplay mechanics to also target certain reactions from the user. As game designers, we've been doing that for a long time. We've just produced those effects as a secondary byproduct of development or a product that's focused on a narrative experience or the game or the rules of gameplay. What we're doing at TRIPP is turning that paradigm around, and we're going right for the mood or the feeling and then using the mechanics to deliver that.
I love the transformative qualities of VR when you can put on any of the really cool VR experiences that I've had. Yeah, you forget about the now, and you're able to transport yourself to another place. Whether it be to the level that you're talking about with TRIPP, or whether it be just going to a different land. One thing that I've heard about in the past, and I'm sure I'm assuming this is one of the components of this of your approach, is binaural beats, something called iDoser, which is you can look up online. And how does this compare to that? Obviously, there's the added visual perspective, but how do those two sensations, those two, the auditory and the visual, kind of combine to create something unique? Well,
sound is definitely a big part of our experience, as well as music. We are creating an adaptive music interface. We have an exciting announcement that we're going to make soon on a key hire for our company to direct us on our sound architecture. When you combine it with the immersion of VR, not just the visuals, so you've got that sound, as you mentioned, binaural beats, isochronic tones, as well as we know music in and of itself can provoke certain emotional reactions. And then you add the visuals, as you mentioned, and put that with the immersion of VR. The VR becomes the multiplier effect, right? And that's actually how we came upon our name of calling ourselves TRIPP, because every time I saw anybody do a VR experience, when they took it off, it didn't matter how old they were, where they were from, they just said, wow, that was a trip.
Yeah.
So, and so we started calling ourselves TRIPP even before we knew that this was where we wanted to focus our attention. Zach and I was actually an early investor in Oculus through my friendship with Brendan, the former CEO of Oculus. And we had tried an early demo of it, and Zach came with me, my partner, Zach Norman, and we said, let's make a game. And we made this fun solitaire app because every new platform needs a good solitaire game, and did it in a haunted house that you can turn around in. And we had this cool experience of what, you had mentioned, of being taken away from our lives to another place. And but even more interesting to us was the fact that when we re-emerged into our real lives, we felt refreshed. And that's what caused us to kind of lean into this idea of how can we create this ability to retreat in a way and kind of do a reset on your emotional state, your mood, your state of mind, and then get you back into the flow of life with maybe a new perspective.
Nice.
So there's obviously a dark side of drugs and video game addiction. We've all heard about it. Social media addiction, and any kind of thing that changes your mood. Talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on that.
Well, that is a great topic for discussion. It's something we've talked about internally as well as with our investors. We do have a motto as a company that we want to do no harm. And so we are working with, we're right now in the process of finalizing a lab partnership to ensure that at minimum, before we go to market, that our product, we know exactly what's happening. Not only, just in general, but even do specific tests on younger minds as well as older. So we want to make sure that we're getting something out in the market that's beneficial, first and foremost, whether that can be measured or not. But at least we want to make sure we're not doing anything wrong. As far as addiction, it is our goal to design a product that makes you want to do it again. We will be able to identify patterns of abuse. Since we're delivering the experience from the server, we could potentially look at patterns of overusage and restrict access, et cetera. These are unknowns to us. So really our first go-to-market plan is to make sure it's well tested and that we start off with a beta community that can provide feedback to us before we go out more broadly.
I'm guessing you won't have a hard time finding beta testers for something like this.
Yeah, that's definitely, I haven't met anybody who doesn't want to try to. But I do think that as a development focus, we have to make sure we build something that is positive, beneficial, and makes you want to do it again. That's really important to us because VR is still very much a novelty use case,
it
right?
Really is,
that's the elephant in the room that no one's talking about. You go, wow, that was trippy, that was great, and then you never go back to it.
Right. And what is the percentage of people that actually return to it and make it a part of their regular regular daily lives and go back to it? What are the technical requirements for something like this? Like there are different levels of VR. Is this the kind of thing that would require room tracking in order to really make it immersive, or is it a sit down like daydream sort of experience?
It's a sit-down experience. We are normalizing the controller to eye tracking and head movement, so that you don't have to. We don't have to have specific inputs, from one platform to the other. We see mobile as being a big opportunity for us. So, we're very well versed in deploying hardened software applications across multiple devices. Zach Norman, my partner, and I were of the founding team of one of the first big mobile game companies called Jamdat. And Jamdat went public in 2005, and then we were bought in 2006 by Electronic Arts. And we built a really solid business on feature phones, believe it or not, even before the smartphone video mobile games. So there's, we've learned through that process, you can't code to lowest common denominator and just port that across all devices. But mobile is not an afterthought for us. It's a primary focus.